And we're back with Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Unfinished Business, Part 2. When we left off, Melissa had an encounter with Christ and referred to Michelle, NASL, by something other than Michelle. Before Angela could address it, she got a text from Regina notifying her that Q was awake. At the hospital, Angela made an executive decision. Q is going home with her to recover from his injuries. And Queen Bella got Donovan together about the salt he was trying to sprinkle on Q's situation. That night, Pops Andy put his foot down and sent everybody home. He stayed the night at the hospital with his oldest son. Angela, Regina, and Miss Brenda took that opportunity to begin to get things ready at the house for Q's discharge from the hospital. Early the next morning, Angela and crew checked out of the hotel. Regina and Miss Brenda headed to the property to meet the estate manager to make sure that everything was in order for the family to move in, and Angela and Melissa headed to Melissa's new school. Once Melissa's education was all set up, Angela began the process of getting her children's medical needs met. She met with various pediatricians, selecting the best one from the candidates that the current pediatrician sent over to her. Then she met with the various specialists referred to her by the specialists back in Denver. After a very long day, she decided to head over to the Salvation Center of Dallas to meet with Pastor Corey to find out exactly what transpired with Melissa at the church. Meanwhile, Regina has wrapped up all of the business over at the house, and she's headed back over to the hospital with LJ to visit Q. Regina tells Q all about her little run-in with Amora at the church. She says, "Listen, bro, I thought long and hard about how to have this conversation with you. And the truth of the matter is, I'm a girl's girl. If it was completely up to me, I would be having this conversation with Angela, or at the very least, she would be here right now while I'm having it with you. But I discussed it with my husband, and I'm taking his advice, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to address it with Angela yourself. Now, I don't know what little Miss Slutbucket has up her sleeves this time, but whatever it is, my best friend better not be the last one to know about it. Because as much as I love you, a gunshot wound will be the last of your worries if you play on her top." Q said, "LJ, bro, get your woman." LJ said, "Nah, player, she your problem now. I can't do nothing with her." The two men chuckled, and Q said, "Listen, I can't deal with all of this right now. You tell Amora not to come anywhere near this hospital. Tell her not to even try to contact me. When I'm better, when I'm ready, I'll come to the Salvation Center, and she can tell me and Angela whatever it is that she feels like I need to hear so bad. I don't even care what it is at this point, but I'm willing to listen to her if it means she'll go away." LJ said, "All right, pay up." Q said, "What?" Regina said, "He bet me $20 that you would be willing to hear Amora out and that you would do it with Angela there, and I lost the bet." Q said, "Oh, you of little faith." Regina said, "Don't do me. I don't trust nothing with 3 legs." LJ said, "What? You don't trust me?" Regina said, "Only as far as I can throw you, and I can't throw your big behind nowhere." Q and LJ chuckled, and Q said, "Cut it out, sis. I'm not supposed to be laughing. It hurts when I laugh." Regina said, "Well, you just make sure you record the conversation when you have it, because I want to hear all about what it is that little Miss Amora has to tell you." At that moment, Donovan walked in the room. He said, "Please tell me I didn't just hear anybody say Amora." LJ looked up and said, "You sure did." Donovan said, "Who resurrected her from the dead?" Regina said, "Apparently she resurrected herself right here in Dallas." Donovan looked shocked, but he also looked nervous. He says real fast, "What she want? She was up here. Where's she at?" Regina said, "Whoa there, shooter. Calm down. She has not been up here. I ran into her, and she asked me to pass a message on to Q that she wants to talk to him, so I did. Donovan became upset and frustrated and flustered and started saying to Q, you don't need to talk to her. What she need to talk to you about? That's more than 8 years old. Ain't nothing for y'all to talk about. You don't need to talk to her. She want to talk to him? Tell her to talk to me. She don't need to talk to my brother. She did enough. At that moment, his phone rings and he says, I'll be right back. And he storms out of the room. LJ looks over at Q. Then he looks at Regina. He looks back at Q and asks, what was that about? Q shrugs and then asks LJ for an update on the investigation. LJ brings Q up to speed on the investigation and tells him that DPD found cell jammers in both of Bun's cars. As a result, the entire crew is also facing felony interfering with communications and federal interfering with emergency communications charges, which carry a minimum of 5 years each, state and federal time, for each instance. Since there were about 10 properties and or individuals affected, that means that each member of the crew is facing 50 years or more in prison. LJ then tells Q that he has a sneaky suspicion that it's not over. Based on all the evidence, there has to be another player in the game, because none of the individuals who have been arrested should even have access to that level of technology. He says that they all need to remain on guard for the foreseeable future. After Angela makes sure that everything is all set at the Dallas property and makes arrangements to have the Denver property packed up and all of their belongings shipped from Denver to Dallas, she heads up to the hospital to visit Q. Since he's had a long day and needs his rest, she just sits with him, reads him a book until he falls asleep, and decides that she'll stay the night. The next morning, Q has a visitor. When Veronica walks in, Q is still fast asleep, but Angela's awake. Veronica says, I'm a real estate agent by trade, but I do virtual styling on the side, and I've been styling a business owner from Denver. And I have a sneaky suspicion that you might be her. Angela asks, were you hired by a business attorney named Regina Johnson? Veronica answers in the affirmative. Angela says, then yes, I'm her. Veronica said, well, it doesn't look like you applied too many of my tips. At that moment, Q opens his eyes and says, Veronica, get out. Veronica is startled because she thought that Q was asleep. She says, no, I didn't mean any harm. It's just, it looks like she just threw that on and came up here. Q said, I'm not going to say it again, Veronica. Veronica sucked her teeth, spent around on her Manolo Blahniks, and stormed out the room. Angela watched her walk out, looked over at Q, looked down at her clothes, and Q said, hold your head up. Angela looked at Q and said, is there something that we need to talk about? Q tells Angela, it's a long story that I don't even have energy for right now. I'll tell you all about it at another time. All you need to know is she's not your competition, because you have no competition. All I want to talk about is when I'm going to get to meet your children before I move into their house temporarily. Angela says, somewhat disappointed. Temporarily? Q reminds her that he can't live with or off a woman as a man. He tells her that he's building a house and that Veronica and Tracy are his realtors, that the house is almost complete, and that when he's well enough, he'll need her help decorating it. Angela agrees to bring Miss Brenda and her children by to visit him later on that evening after Bible study. She then tells him what happened at church on Sunday and what happened when she went to visit Pastor Corey. Pastor Corey was in his office and waiting for Angela. When she came in, she told him, I'm really sorry about, Pastor Corey said, oh no, don't apologize. God moves how he moves. And I had a special message just for the children, and I'm sure she was inspired by it. Angela said, oh really? Pastor Corey said, yes. I always make sure that I pre-record about a 10-minute video for the 7 to 8-year-old group, and then a little bit longer video for the 9 to 11-year-old group. And then I have one final recording for the 11 to 13-year-old group. And anybody over that age is usually right there in the sanctuary, and the sermon is appropriate for them. Angela said, oh, okay. I thought it was just like old school Sunday school. He said, oh no, honey, this is new age. We're far beyond that. I want to make sure that the children have something that they can discuss with the parents, and what the parents have learned during Sunday service works with what the children have learned in children's church. We do the same thing during Bible study. You should come and bring your children. Angela said, I don't know. How do I know that my children are going to be safe and not running off out of the children's church when the people who are supposed to be watching them have their backs turned? Pastor Corey said, I assure you, that definitely was a fluke. Michelle is always on point. Things like that don't usually occur. The door is usually locked from the inside. I think what happened, Angela said, you think? You didn't investigate and find out what happened? Pastor Corey said, calm down. Between Michelle and the assistant, one of them didn't lock the door when the assistant went to switch rooms. Neither of them are sure which one of them did it, but the assistant was only gone for about 2 minutes. She went to the other room to get the snacks, and when she came back, Melissa had already run out the room. Angela said, okay, I understand. But listen, I get real funny when it comes to my children. You have no idea what we've been through. Pastor Corey said, oh, I know what you've been through. I've been dating your sister, remember? Angela said, oh yeah, that's right. He said, I truly apologize that happened. And Michelle is so apologetic. She wants to speak with you herself. Angela said, that's fine. But I also wanted to ask you, what exactly happened between you and Melissa when she came to the front? Pastor Corey said, now, I do not divulge what my parishioners share with me in confidence. Unless, of course, a child shares something with me that lets me know they're in danger or someone else is in danger, because I am a mandatory reporter. Now, what I will say, because you and I are friends, is that she wanted me to pray for her daddy. Angela was shocked and confused. She said, her father is deceased. Wait, did she say that to you verbally? Now Pastor Corey was confused. At that moment, Deacon Davis entered the office, and he needed to speak with Pastor Corey about an urgent matter. So unfortunately, Pastor Corey had to excuse Angela. He said, Angela, I'm sorry. I have to cut this short. Can we talk again tomorrow before or after Bible study? Preferably after. Angela said, well, I'll try to make it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but we definitely need to continue this conversation. Pastor Corey said, okay, doll, you have a blessed day. When Angela finished her story, Q mumbled, she prayed for me, and dozed off to sleep. Angela looked and said, I'm gonna go ahead and let you get some rest. I'm gonna go ahead and head out. I'll be back later. And she gave him a kiss on the forehead, walked out of the room in absolute confusion.